So this is Gray. I'm going to be practicing my storytelling, and thank you for anybody out there in internet land that is going to spend the time actually watching this video. So I am practicing my Welsh lore, which Welsh myth and legends. I'm going to be doing my stories based off of the Mabinogian. This is a version edited by Jones and Jones. It was referred to me by a good friend at Caldera Fest back in May. There are several different versions of it out there. The Mabinogian is a collection of stories of myths and legends from Wales. It's broken up into 4 different branches, each chronicling a series of individual short stories about different central main figures. The first branch of the Mabinogi they're called the 4 branches of the Mabinogi. Mabinogian is kind of a mistranslation, but that's not applicable to what we're talking about today. I'm going to be telling the very first very short story from the first branch of the Mabinogi, which is the Tales of Pwyll, Prince of David. I'm terrible with Welsh pronunciation, so any words or names that I horribly butcher, please go easy on me. I am not a bard, I am not a druid, I am not an ovate, I make no claims to be an expert on anything. I'm just somebody that really likes this lore. I'm also not going to be reciting the story in the book word for word. I'm going to be trying to tell the story with my own voice, my own experiences, and I think it's more important that the story itself gets told rather than trying to use the specific words. There are some times where specific words are important, but we'll get to that. So let's get started and see how this goes. Pwyll, and I'm going to keep the book on my lap as a reference point because Welsh names, and I don't have this as memorized completely as I'd like yet. So we're going to talk about Pwyll. Pwyll was a prince of David. That was about 7. He was a prince over 7 cantrefs. Cantrefs are like basically counties in the south, or regions, cities, and the surrounding land, and basically a city and the suburbs and the farm country around it. And he was the ruler of 7 cantrefs that comprise David, which is which was a region in Wales. Pwyll was a great man. He was a fearsome warrior. He was heroic. He was stalwart. He was true to his word. And he was not the brightest candle that there ever was. Pwyll was at one of his castles, and it came upon him on this one day that he wanted to go for a hunt. Now, this was not a hunt that he wanted to take a small warband, take his 100 best men with him, or his 50 best men, or his 10 best men. Pwyll decided he was going to go off into the forest and hunt on his own, because what could go wrong with that? So he gathered his hounds, and he and his hounds went off into the forest with sword, spear, shield, hunting horn strapped around his side. He loosed his hounds into the wood, and he heard them catch the scent of something, and they tore off into the woods, barking and hunting something down. And finally he heard the baying of the hounds as they had found a prey. He sounded his horn, and he charged into the forest after his hounds. And there he came upon a glade. And in this glade, he saw this magnificent, massive stag. It wasn't just a large stag. It didn't just have fine fur. It was silken, and the fur gleamed like bronze in the sunset. In Welsh lore, when you start talking about really, really flowery prose, and you start describing things as bigger than life, that's where you have to start thinking about that this is something that is not natural to this world. But we'll get to that. And Pwyll saw this magnificent stag, and it was being set upon by a pack of hounds, but these were not his hounds. No, his hounds were over there at the edge of the clearing. They had been chased away by this other pack. And these hounds, oh, these were magnificent creatures. Their fur was as white could be, whiter than new fallen snow, and their ears and their paws glowed with a brilliant redness like the fire of the setting sun itself. And by this, we are meant to know that in no uncertain terms, these are not normal hounds. No, these were hounds of the other world. Now, the other world can be kind of a complicated thing. It's a lot of people will just lump it together and say, oh, well, it's the Celtic version of the afterlife. Kind of. It's everything that isn't this world. It's the grand total of the mystery that is the supernatural. In the Nordic traditions, they have Afelheim and Vanaheim and Asgard. All of those are part of what the Celts would consider the other world. The Greeks and Romans, Tartarus, Hades, anything that describes that altered reality, whether it's the land of the dead or the realm of the fairies, the kingdom of Oberon or Titania, of Albrecht or Merovich, those are all types of ways of describing this other world that really is beyond description. So in Welsh lore, we describe things as more real than real. And I say we, they. So you have these hounds whose fur is whiter than white and redder than red, purer than snow, brighter than a blazing fire. And they take this stag down. And Pwyll charges into this glade and shoos these hounds away. For he is a fearsome warrior that even the beasts of the other world backed away from him when he challenged them. And he bade his hounds come forth and set them upon the stag and baited them out, and they finished this beast off. And as his hounds set upon this stag, he heard a hunting horn in the distance. And a hunter, garbed in raiments fine, that seemed to blend him in with the forest that he was in, rode forward and looked at Pwyll. You have done me much dishonor, sir. Pwyll, Prince of David, I know you. I know who you are. I know your name. And you have done me much injury. And for this we shall never have an accord. We shall never be friends. I will take my justice upon you. And Pwyll looked at this stranger and said, "Hey, obviously, if you know who I am, and you're gonna come speak to me like that, well, I can only assume that you're a king also, and you have every right to do so, because no one else would have the courage. Tell me, are you a king?" "I am." "Do you hail from this land?" "I hail from where this land perhaps is." "And what is your name?" "Ah, that I cannot give you, for there is much, much between us, and you are not worthy of my name." "Well, sir, you are obviously a noble person, and you say that I have done you wrong, and I sincerely apologize. What have I done?" "Did you not bring your hounds into this forest, which I do claim is mine?" "I did, sir." "Did you seek my permission?" "I did not, for this forest is my land as well." "Did you not release your hounds into this land? Did you not see a stag taken down by hounds other than yours? Did you not chase those hounds away from prey that they had rightfully gotten, and set your own hounds, which could not take down the stag, upon them?" "I did, sir. But what have I done that displeases you so?" "You have rightfully stolen that which is mine. That which my hounds captured and killed and took down. You have taken my kill, you have insulted my honor and my dignity. For this, there is much between us." And Pwyll thought a moment and goes, "Yep, yep, I did that. Yeah, that was my bad. I'm real Wow, I really didn't think this one through. Uh, what can I do to make this up to you? Any service at all. If there is anything that I can do, tell me what I can do to make this up to you." There is a thing. There is a thing that you could do, but I don't believe you would be willing to. No, no, it is too much of a task for you. It is better to leave animosity between us than ask you to do the impossible. Well, at this, Pwyll got his back up, for he was the most honorable, most fearsome warrior in his land. And he said, "Any task, set before me any task that you will, and I will accomplish it. There is nothing too far that will stop me from becoming your close friend." "As you wish." There is a neighboring king, and I have to look up the neighboring king's name. Hafken. Sorry. There is a king of my realm who neighbors my land, and it is our custom, it is our way that once a year and every year we meet on the field of battle and our forces do clash. And at the end of this fight, every year I strike him down. But such is my honor, such is the nobility and the code of conduct that I must live by, that by my honor I am obligated to give him a finishing blow and finally strike him down. And as I end his life, he jumps back up and prepares for battle in the next year. This is what I ask of you, Pwyll. Prince of David, you will go into my kingdom, and I will put a spell upon you that will give you all of the seeming and the voice that is mine, such that there is not a person in my kingdom that will know who you are, or think that you are not me. And you shall stay in my kingdom for a year, and at the end of that year, you shall go out to the field, and you shall meet, and you shall lead my army, and you shall meet Halfgen in the field. And you, Pwyll, Prince of David, will strike him down. But you are not bound to the laws and to my honor. You are bound to your own. And you have no obligation to give Halfgen a finishing blow. No matter how much he entreats you, no matter what he offer, no matter how he beg or beseech, you do not end his life. Do this for me, and we shall be friends. Amends shall be made. And well, a year. But what of my people? What of my kingdom? What of my charges? What of my responsibility? As I put a seeming on you, so I shall clothe myself in your likeness. I shall stay in your kingdom, and I shall rule in your stead. And at the end of the year, one day after, you shall come back to this very glade. And a year and a day from now we shall meet, and then you shall return to your court and I to mine. Do this, and then amends shall be made for the insult you have given me. I'm Annwn, king of my realm. Well, Pwyll could hardly say no. Such was the power and majesty that this king obviously had, that Pwyll agreed. And Annwn raised his hand. Annwn, king of Annwn. And Annwn, king of Annwn, raised his hand, and he spoke a word. I am not a druid or a bard. It is not a word that I could pronounce with 20 years of training. But it was not simply a word. It was wisdom and knowledge. It was a word. And he reached out waved his hand over Pwyll, and a semblance of all that Annwn was fell upon him. And then he spoke another word. Not just a common word. Not just hello or greetings. But he spoke a word that is the core of reality. And upon Annwn, king of Annwn, fell the semblance of Pwyll, Prince of David. Remember your oath to me. Strike not the final blow. You shall fight in a year, and then a year and a day and a day shall you meet me back here. I'll do as you wish. And with that, Pwyll, Prince of David, rode off into the other realm, to a magnificent castle full of retainers and servants, into a magnificent feast hall, the likes of which he had never seen, with foods, multitudes of food and meat and bread, exotic dishes that he could hardly describe. And there he sat, and not a single person in all the keep did not think he was Arwen, King of Alwyn. So perfect was his seeming that even the queen, a woman of surpassing grace and beauty, whose hair shone like silken sunlight rising over the first hills of the morning, she sat beside him and knew nothing of the deception. And all night they feasted, and they drank, and they caroused, and they sang songs and told stories. And then, when the feasting was done, Pwyll got up and was led to the chambers of the king, wherein the queen came into bed beside him, and said all manner of tender and loving things, to which Pwyll, because he was a good and honorable man, rolled to his side and went to sleep. And in the morning, the queen, for all her graciousness, for all of her etiquette and courtly ways, spoke nothing of what had transpired. And in the day, he and the men of the other realm went out and hunted fantastic beasts that defied description. And in the evening they returned to the feast hall, and they feasted every day. And at night he would return to the king's chambers, and the queen would join him and whisper sweet things in his ear, and Pwyll would say nothing, and would roll over and go to sleep. And such was his life for a year. And then it came time to face Hafken, king of the other realm. This is like Odin asking a mortal to go face Laufey in a cage match. Understand the level of almost borderline ridiculousness that is this story. A king of the other realm has said, "Oh, I just need you to go kill this other god for me." It's nothing big. But Pwyll, undaunted, for he was the bravest and the strongest of all of the warriors of the land, went forth and did battle with the forces of Hafken. And he did win. And in the ensuing fight, he did strike down Hafken. And Hafken, king of the other realm, lay there dying. "You have done me great injury again this year, my lord. I ask only for one thing. By your honor, make a clean kill of this. Let me die with my honor." And Pwyll said, "Surely you have been an honorable combatant. Surely you have fought valiantly, and you have led your men well. And it is surely that you deserve such a death. But I will not strike you dead. Curse whatever dishonor may befall me, I will not be the one to end you." And Hafken said, "But you must. It is by your honor that I demand to be ended. Whatever treasure it is you seek, whatever power I have, all that I am, I offer to you for the honor of a clean kill." Now, Pwyll knew that doing so, Hafken would make good on his word. And all of that power, the riches, the glory, the land, those would go to Pwyll, the real person. But he had made a promise, and Pwyll was an honorable man. Now, Let whatever happens, happens, and I wish you a speedy death, but it will not be by my hand. And Halfkin turns and looks at his army and goes, See now your king who is dead. Mourn, mourn, for I am no more. And Halfkin died upon the field. This time he did not get back up. He did not heal. There was no finishing blow. There was no honor in death. It was a slow and painful death. And Pwyll watched. And then he said to the army of Halfkin, Who now is your king? What purpose now do you have? Who will you serve? And there was a great rumble, for they did not have an answer. By combat I have defeated your king. Serve me then. For I am Allwyn, the king of Arwen. Pledge your allegiance to me. And they did. And they all to a man pledged their allegiance to Allwyn, the king of Arwen. To Arwen, the king of Allwyn. Not to Pwyll. And he sent them all, the armies that he led and the armies that had newly sworn, back to the keep to feast and carouse. And Pwyll separated himself from the host, and by the end of the next day returned to a glade, wherein he was met by the semblance of himself. Hail there! And how stands Pwyll, the Prince of David? Victorious stands Pwyll, the Prince of David. I have done as you ask. I have defeated your adversary, and furthermore, I have bound his army by oath to follow you. Take his land, and take his men, with sincere gratitude, and let this be an amends. Arwen, the king of Arwen, said, This is a greater gift than I could have possibly expected. We shall be true friends forevermore. Let this be a compact between your realm and mine, and let our two lands never be separated. And he spoke a word, and the semblances from both of them fell away like dew evaporating in the morning. Such was the gossamer and temporary magic that it simply vanished. And Arwen, the king of Arwen, returned to his people triumphant. And such was his exuberance to see all of his retainers and his courtiers. And everyone was very confused, for he had been there. Not a single one of them had realized that he has been gone a year. And feast they did, and each and every single knight of Halfkin swore personal allegiance to Arwen, the king of Arwen. And then in the night, the queen came to bed. And by this time she had become accustomed to how things had changed. And she prepared herself for sleep. And Arwen, the king of Arwen, who had been away for a year, turned around and whispered sweet things to her ear. And she turned around, and my lord, what has become you? For a year I have flattered you. I have offered you every pleasure. I have said every kind thing that I can. And for a year you have rejected me. You have turned away and said not one word. What possible change has overcome my lord, that now you come to me in such state? And Arwen said, For an entire year I have not touched you? No, my lord, surely you have not. And he did describe to his wife the ordeal and the challenge that he had given Pwyll, the Prince of David, and how Pwyll, the Prince of David, had taken his stead, and how it was this mortal that had been in his bed for a year. And at this the queen said, This stranger who could have done anything with your kingdom and all that you have, this is a true and honorable friend. This is a man you must stand beside at all times. And Arwen, the king of Arwen, agreed. And Pwyll, the Prince of David, returned to his people as well, to find that over the past year, his reputation throughout the land had grown. Such was the wisdom that he led his people, that they had food stores like never before. His armies were triumphant in every single challenge that they faced. His people happier than they had ever been. And Pwyll gathered his greatest advisors. And in perhaps one of the greatest things that a leader can do, realize the success that his kingdom had had under the leadership of Arwen, king of Arwen. And Pwyll said, Keep doing what you're doing. Don't let me stop you. And he explained to his advisors all that had transpired, and that he had spent a year in the other realm, in the other world, and that it was Arwen, the king of Arwen, who had ruled in his stead, in his likeness and his semblance. And all of his courtiers, all of his servants in his court were absolutely dumbfounded at the story and of all the glories of the other realm that Pwyll told. And so it came that Pwyll became known as the head of Annwn from that time forth. And he was Pwyll, the head of Annwn, the speaker for the other realm in this realm. And that is the first story of Pwyll. Perhaps one of the best decisions that he ever made. But Pwyll is a man. And he is not perfect. But we'll get to those mistakes on another time. Good night.